Really? I can get it done.
I need a ring of water.
Cotton candy.
Was that on a wallet? I have like 7 of those.
Everybody's used to going. I need to go back and do more.
Yes.
Some people apply
Yeah.
right away.
I just saw it.
It's probably not a good
Picking up the hoses and stuff.
questions. Maybe. Nothing you want to do.
Upstairs is a FinCom hearing.
I'm actually fucking guys. You've given me some really good insight
Last
here.
night. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Oh, no. Move sports below class 2025. That's usually how we do it. We do high school, then class 26 are usually short. Unless you want to keep one of them so long.
And real quick, Paul, just a mic check.
that's what I'm saying. But move sports below, that makes more sense.
I can hear you just fine.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Time being 7:01, I call to order the Franklin School Committee meeting. Meetings are recorded by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 9 as well as Channel 29. Typically recorded by Franklin Matters. At the conclusion of the meeting, we will be going into executive session, but we'll be returning back to an open meeting before officially adjourning. And then committee member Dr. Paul Griffith will be joining us remotely. All right, so I'll start with our pledge student. Maddie, if you want to come on up. All right. Now, Maddie Bergeron, Kennedy fifth grader. Maddie is a kind, polite, and hardworking fifth grader at Kennedy Elementary. Her teachers describe her as a great friend who always brings a positive attitude to the classroom. Maddie's favorite subject is writing, especially when she gets to create her own narratives and let her imagination shine. Outside of school, Maddie loves spending time with her friends and playing outside. She's also a big fan of softball and enjoys playing whenever she gets a chance. Maddie has 2 brothers, 7th grader Ryan and 2nd grader Quinn, who keeps things fun and lively at home. This summer, she's excited to attend softball camp and will continue doing what she loves most. All right, and I'll rise. Maddie, take it away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fantastic job. And as is customary, we'll now pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, you did a fantastic job. If you want to scoot out of here,
Thank you.
enjoy the weather, have fun. All right, routine business, agenda look okay to everybody? All right, payment of bills taken care of, payroll?
Payroll's all set.
Excellent. All right, FHS reps.
Some news for the whole school. AP tests are coming up for many students. They can use AP Classroom and Blue Book to prepare. School transportation registration for the next year opened today. More info on the FHS newsletter. Franklin's summer classes are now open. Students can sign up for science, technology, engineering, art, and math courses over summer. The FHS Film Festival is on May 22nd at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. All are welcome. And Empty Bowls is also holding their 10th annual fundraiser on the 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. in the cafeteria. Tomorrow in the auditorium, FHS Jazz is holding a concert at 7 p.m. On May 13th at 7 p.m., there will be an 8th grade included concert in the FHS auditorium. And finally, congratulations to the FHS Theater Company for reaching the finals in the METG Festival.
Wins across the board for Franklin sports this week. Boys baseball picked up a good win over Stoughton, 11-1. Girls softball beat Stoughton 12-0. Boys tennis beat Stoughton 5-0. Girls tennis beat Stoughton 3-2. Boys lacrosse beat Sharon 12-10, and girls lacrosse beat Sharon 20-1. As of our senior class, senior project is started, and additionally, senior week is starting in 2 weeks, and students will have to fill out a contract and buy a ticket from the FHS newsletter. Senior sign-out day is on May 30th. More info on the newsletter. Seniors also have their middle school reunion on May 20th from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. where students can visit their old middle schools. For our junior class, prom is coming up this Friday at Lakeview Pavilion. Tickets are no longer available, and we hope everyone has a great time. 2 fundraisers are being held by the junior class. First is a school-wide Red Sox game. These tickets are $30, and the sale closes on May 9th. This is separate from the senior week traditional Red Sox game. This one is another one for the juniors this year. And the second fundraiser is a railway fundraiser on May 21st. Everyone attending has to say they're there for FHS, and the junior class will receive 10% of the revenue.
All right, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Any kind of questions from the committee?
No questions?
Can we get in on those $30 Red Sox tickets? That's a pretty good deal, huh?
I believe you can, yeah.
All right. Excellent.
To support the junior?
Yeah. Superintendent Gary, expect more info on that.
We'll be in touch.
I'm on it.
I'll type it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Griffith?
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you guys very much. All right, superintendent's report.
Okay, great. Please do, thanks. So I just wanted to follow up on 2 things that were mentioned. The FHS Theater Company and our FHS musicians will be joining you at the next 2 school committee meetings. They could not make tonight. We had invited them, but because of conflicts and a concert during our next meeting. So the theater company will be joining us on May 13th, and then on May 27th, the musicians who earned gold status at the MICA will join as well, okay? All right, so, good evening, everyone. Just a couple of updates. The FinCom budget hearing occurred on April 28th, which was yesterday, where the Franklin Public Schools, we presented the budget to the Finance Committee. The proposed $80.4 million budget reflects a 3.7% increase over our FY25 and strategically preserves class sizes, restores key staffing, and reduces family costs while addressing our operational expenses. Through reorganization and resource allocation, the district avoided increases to the FTEs, achieving 3.1 in estimated savings. The presentation emphasized that the approved budget hinges on resolving the town's $3.8 million structural deficit and is designed to maintain stability, student support and services, and academic quality across our grade levels. I just would re-emphasize that it's predicated on solving the town's structural deficit. It was the same budget that you approved as a school committee, and FinCom approved it last night and endorsed it as we move through the budget cycle. For more information, you can go to Franklin TV. They have the recording if anyone's interested to see just how that played out. We used some of the slides that we had presented previously. The first slide I put up was a timeline, and there was 13 markers where we presented the budget this year, just in a variety of different capacities. So we streamlined one to make it as accessible as possible, and you can find more information on our website as well regarding that. CJ Neely, our coach for the FHS basketball team, was named Coach of the Year. Franklin High School head coach. He was named the 24-25 Hockomock Sports Boys Basketball Coach of the Year, his 2nd consecutive and 3rd overall honor in the past 4 years. He led the Panthers to a 27-1 record, an undefeated league season, and their first ever Division I state championship. He secured a 3rd straight Kelly Rex Division title, and Franklin became the first team in 50 years to post back-to-back 16-0 league records. Franklin Panthers allowed under 48 points per game, making them one of the best defensive teams in recent Hockomock League history. So Coach Neely joins Mansfield's coach Mike Vaughn, who some may remember from his time as one of only 2 coaches to win this award 3 times. Also, the Franklin High School senior, our Franklin High School senior, Caden Sullivan, has been named the 24-25 Hockomock Sports Boys Basketball Player of the Year and Kelly Rex Division MVP after a historic season, which you heard about with the 27 wins in their first ever state championship. He led the Hockomock League in scoring, averaging 22 points per game. He scored 640 points this season, setting a new single season record, and also hit the 1,000 point career milestone, which is a very hard achievement to do in basketball, and we give him all the credit in the world. So I just wanted to announce those two individual. You had the team visit you at one of our previous school committee meetings, but after that meeting, some individual awards came out that I wanted to make sure that we highlighted. Transportation and registration, you heard our students talk about this, but transportation registration for the 25-26 school year is now open and will remain open through June 20th, 2025. Registration and payment are processed through Link Connect. It's critical that families register, and many have. We have some stats on that too, I think, Ms. Malati. 742 have already registered. And after June 20th, all families would be placed on the wait list and contacted as spots become available. And instructions for registration were shared with families yesterday, and we also provided them and made them available on the Franklin Public Schools transportation website. Bus routes will be developed over the summer and posted in August. And for any questions, you can email schoolbus@franklinps.net. I have a registration update that I added this afternoon. During the initial launch of the transportation registration, an issue was identified regarding payment options. So families who registered and paid before noon today were not given the option to pay via e-check, which carries a 99-cent fee, and were instead charged the $15.29, which is associated with credit card processing fees. So the issue was corrected by noon that day, and all the families that had paid the $15.29 have been identified, and Franklin Public Schools will be issuing a refund of $14.30, which is the difference between the credit card and the e-check, basically. And checks are expected to be processed and mailed within 2 to 4 weeks. Colin Boisvert will be reaching out directly to those families to communicate next steps, and we appreciate the community's patience and understanding as we work through this issue. And that completes my report for tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Start down here.
Yeah. Well, we still trying to charge for e-check, for processing fees, normally. They don't charge any processing fee for e-checks.
The company charges a 99-cent fee for the e-checks, and then they do the $15.39 for a credit card. So that's one of the things. It is a dashboard that we have. There are some different options that are available for folks to see their payments and status and things that we didn't offer in previous programs. But yes.
That's all.
The only question I had was, you said 742 people signed up?
Right.
About what percentage is that? Do you have any idea? Because what are we expecting? I'm just curious. Like, I know we can't predict exactly, and that's probably one of the urgencies about signing up.
We can find that data if it
Yeah,
wasn't
I'm
already
curious.
presented, and if not, we'll find it out and we can share it back with you.
Yeah, and
Happy to do
no
it.
big deal. I was just gonna do it for like the public.
Actually-
Just be like, yeah.
See, Colin's texting me here.
As if you bought everywhere.
He was confirming that there's a flat 99-cent fee for e-check. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, no problem. All set.
Trying to give a live update, didn't work.
No questions, thank you for the update.
Thank you for the update. I do have a question about the buses.
Sure.
So I just want to make sure that folks are clear and understand, because I don't want us to go through the fiasco that we had last time
Yeah.
because people did not pay on time. So just to reiterate, registration is opened up today.
Yes,
It closes on the 20th, and after the 20th, people are on a wait list, which does not guarantee them a bus.
That's correct.
correct.
Okay, and just to confirm, this new process now ensures that payments are made before. You can't
Yeah,
get on the wait list partially.
yeah. In order to complete the registration, they have to make the payment at the same time.
Okay, so come September, if somebody says that they did not get a bus, it's because they did not register on the 20th, and it's because of their own actions, not the actions of anybody here.
That would be correct, yes.
And they will, in the program, Link Connect, they will see not only their lunch information, but they'll see that they're on a wait list. I know some confusion last year was like, am I on a wait list, am I not? So I think on the user end, there was also an inability to kind of check your status. And I know that we all appreciate a good dashboard, and it's nice to be able to see that. So I think if there's any confusion, if anyone did it, they at least get confirmation that says, and then we can send reminders as well. So
Yep,
it's a good question.
Yep, and I commend you all for looking at what had happened before and implementing a better solution so that we don't have those same mistakes. One thing though that it mentioned about the fee, which it's showing the lower fee, which we have yet to vote on yet.
Correct.
Do we have a date when we're gonna vote on the lower fee?
Do you want to talk through just the message, if you've registered?
Sure.
Has anyone, you've registered?
Yeah.
So do you want to speak, Mr. Callahan, to what the message said, just to,
Yeah.
you're a user?
Yeah, like
Through
I'm
the
one of
chair.
those 700 because I think I was terrified. I was the other side of it last time. But it was first the Link Connect itself. It was a fantastic process. I was able to kind of do it within about like 15 minutes, start to finish, without. I got the same email as a parent that everybody else did as family members. And then, yeah, the message that I had received or had seen come through, this is just from a personal account, was that currently it's posted at, it's $500. The intent is to bring it down to the $387.
387.
Is that what I paid? Okay. And so, but there's like a message that says it's, right now I pay, $387. And then depending on what happens moving forward, if it stays at the $500 level by, I think it was July 1? July 1st, okay. That July 1st, there'll be like a notification to say I still have another bill that's due, which would be the difference. I'm not gonna do the math right now.
113.
Thank you. This is why the school business administrator knows how to gavel. And so that a message will be sent to say I have this debt that's outstanding and a bill to be paid.
Correct.
But it was a fantastic process for folks at home who haven't yet done that. Kind of highly recommend to do so. I got a couple of the comments, but I don't want to steal the rest of your floor.
Cool, yep. But
Yeah,
do-
just, I thought because you had gone through
Yeah,
it, you could verify the process you went through.
Okay, but do we have a date? Because the way I see it, right now, the 387 does not
Right.
include there's a 3-student cap. And I can think of a family that has 4 kids, it's gonna be $2,000 if it doesn't get voted versus a little under 1,200. And if that family will wait until the vote happens before that they make a payment, so I think we need to tell them when the vote is so that folks can prepare, exactly, because what happens if they sign up today and it gets voted down, does the family get a refund of all of the monies that they've paid? So I think we need to get a vote
Yep.
sooner than later.
We had a date planned for June 10th, thinking about the override date, just to get through that process. That's not sooner than later in the context. I mean, it's a little over a month. But what we can do is get back to you we can let you know and confirm and communicate out when we can do that meeting, or when we can vote on fees if there's a desire to want to do that sooner.
Yeah, and I mean, where this one I think is regardless of the override passing or not, I think if we can decouple it from the override and get this done sooner so that families can then plan ahead and decide what they want to do.
Okay. I made a note. I can confirm a date with you all and maybe connect with a few people because policy would want to put eyes probably on that again because you had started that process, but we can certainly get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Just confirming, we're talking about the school bus here, and that everyone can register today. And I really have no other questions. I think I got a text and an email, it was incredible.
We're trying to be as communicative as possible.
Thank you.
And Dr. Griffith?
So I just wanted to get some clarity with something that Al said. Are we looking to change the fees even if the override doesn't pass based on our current budget?
The policy subcommittee, when they met, Dr. Griffith talked about the adjustment of fees if an override passed, but then there was a discussion around whether those fees, if it didn't pass, the impact of that is the budget, if there's a failed override, will have to make reductions. I spoke about it last night, and we talked about if we need to reduce 2 million, incorporating that, keeping the fees where they were would be less, would allow us to not use as operational funds, right, to offset. So that was part of the discussion, and I think that's where we want to get clear, really super clear on the intent and of the policy subcommittee, because I know that's going to be really important, and then setting a date for what those fee adjustments would be. And if it's predicated on the override, it would need to be June 10th. If it's not predicated on the override, then it can be independent and can be done sooner. So I think that's where we need to have some conversations, probably reach out to Ms. O'Sullivan to start with policy, and then make a determination on the direction we need to move on that. But I think that would be a key critical, it's a very good question, and it's critical to this, to answering it.
Okay, and, I appreciate that clarity. I do think it highlights a very important detail, that decoupling those two can really go down a challenging path, where we can lock ourselves into expenses that we can't afford if the override doesn't pass. So although I can understand the urgency to try and make sure that people understand what the fees are actually going to be, I do want to be very cautious that we don't rush into saying we're going to lower them right now, and then if we're looking at things later and we have to really make some hard choices, I feel like that whiplash is going to be a lot more damaging, a lot more challenging to parents, especially when you look at it from saying, all right, great, it's going to be the lower cost now. And then like we had to do last year where we return and say, actually, now you owe more, and we have a high risk there. So I think if we leave it where kind of the way you have it set up now, you have that quote unquote down payment as is. I understand the challenge when it comes to the cap. I don't have a simple solution there, but leaving that down payment with the understanding that the remainder is going to be due gives us a window to be able to respond if we have to have a discussion after the override. But I would be very, very cautious to go into this conversation, go into this policy change without all of the details in front of us. We're just over a month away now, trying to rush and say, let's hurry up and change something that we might need to revisit, I think is going to be risky. So I would just comment on it that I can appreciate the challenges that some people are going to experience. And I hope that the deposit action alone is effective mitigation for most families. But if we go down the path of making changes to potentially make changes back, I think we're going to be having an issue when it comes to communication and credibility.
We did leave, just to follow up on that as you move through the comments, we did leave it so that when people paid the $387, which is technically what we had discussed as the tentative lowest payment, that it does say that should, we reserve the right to return it to its original fee, just as a protective factor because some decisions weren't made, and we didn't want to create any surprises for anybody, because that's not the goal here. It's really about trying to balance this. So I understand the comment.
Appreciate it. That's it. I appreciate it. And if it hasn't been said 6 times already, go sign up for busing. Thank you.
And so, yeah, I just want to, in regards to the transportation, like I said, it was a very easy to kind of follow process. So whomever put together that whole email and the worksheets, I think that was Director of Operations, that was fantastic. And so for the folks too, kind of go check your emails. It's a really simple step-by-step kind of process to get involved. But just for Superintendent Jaguar and your entire team, the whole entire, the transportation, kind of going from where we started with the school year to where we are today is just night and day. And for school business administrator, I know right out of the gate, you really kind of took the bull by its horns, made sure all the kids that were on the wait list had spots on the buses, and kind of continued to navigate a lot of those issues that we had at the beginning. And then now all the work that Colin has kind of done and the rest of the entire team to create with this new link, Connect. It was the first time I kind of used the app, but it was great. It was fantastic. So it's a complete overhaul, and I really appreciate all the work that went into this for the whole year. And just to kind of circle back to the beginning, I know you spoke about the FinCom meeting.
Yes.
And so I know you mentioned there was 13 other presentations along the way. So one, for folks, if there's anybody out there that has questions about the school budget process, there is hours and hours of video online on YouTube. You can kind of go and watch all these presentations. But Superintendent Jaguar, just your entire team did a fantastic job of presenting it now 14 times to the fact this is one of the more, maybe successful, but the cleanest, the easiest FinCom nights that at least I've been present for the schools. They You all knew, obviously, the budget inside and out, but so did so many members of the FinCom. The questions they asked were great and appropriate, but you had answers for every single one of them. It was a very well cohesive budget that you presented. And I really think it kind of showed through last night's FinCom meeting. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. I credit the team for their work on that.
All right. So moving on. No guest presentations. We're blowing through this agenda right now, so discussion action items.
Okay, so first up for discussion action is an elementary report card. We're joined by Dr. Tim Frazier, who will be here to present or revisit a concept and topic that he brought up last year. So he's here to represent on this with some updates. So I'll kick it over, and I want to also acknowledge Dr. Rogers and the work that they've done to get this done. So I'm excited to hear some of these updates. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here, Dr. Frazier. And I would also note Mr. Stark is in the audience too.
Yes.
He was here before you last May. And I think a credit before we even start to share some of these updates that are before you for recommendation for approval. We have a literacy specialist in the audience who's been at the forefront of a lot of this work. A kindergarten teacher who has actually participated in level-based conversations that culminate in what's brought before you, but of course many more folks that have been part of this process along the way. So in your packet, there was, I'm just gonna put on the screen, as it comes up, but there was, I'm gonna start with a bit of the timeline, but ultimately what you see before you tonight is similar to what was before you on May 28th last year, where we came to update math standards last year because we were into the curriculum revision process and curriculum implementation. It takes some time to implement curriculum to then make sure that we're aligning report cards to state standards and then being able to support teachers in how are we measuring progress so that they can accurately report to families. So that's why we're here tonight for the major adjustment for the literacy adjustment to the report card. In addition, there's two other adjustments we're seeking approval for that are a bit more minor, I would say, which one is a slight adjustment to the standards rating scale, and we'll discuss that as well. And then the third would be to align the social studies and science content areas to what you had previously approved for math, art, PE, health, and IT in the last report card, and what we're seeking approval for in literacy this year. So we'll walk you through that. Before I turn it over to Dr. Frazier, we provided you with a bit of a timeline here. So just back in spring of 2023, committees of teachers, math specialists, classroom teachers, special educators, administrators worked to revise the elementary curriculum, the elementary math portion of the report card. They worked for a full year. Through that process, back and forth between committee work, grade level meetings, to get to a point in which everybody felt as though what was presented to you on May 28th of last year aligned both with the curriculum and instructional practices in the classroom and the Massachusetts state standards. So then, in addition to that, we also made adjustments, if you recall, and I shared a document with you all. We made the adjustments to align with Portrait of a Graduate, and so kind of drew out a bit, or tried to make a bit more concrete what we all say our North Star is of this Portrait of a Graduate. What does that look like in a kindergarten classroom or first grade all the way through fifth grade to be able to report on that? And so that already exists as part of the report card. So that work was really a culmination of a lot of effort from Mr. Stark, who led that initiative, the math specialist classroom teachers. In addition, last year, PE teachers and health teachers, music teachers, art teachers, and our new instructional technology course at the elementary school, you also voted to approve that to be part of the elementary school report card. So I just say this because there's a lot of work that all the teachers and curriculum leaders are doing behind the scenes to get to what we are presenting in front of you tonight. And that led again to spring of '24 with your approval to adjust the report card. And then with that, if you recall, we came back in June at your request to attach a letter to the forefront of elementary report cards, just with some more information. So I'll come back to that as we talk about next steps. but that we continue to share with the elementary school report cards, and we'll look to kind of expand some of that as we work into the future. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Frazier so he can, or Dr. Frazier, so he can speak to the work he's done with educators.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to kind of walk us through the requested changes to the literacy report card and our proposal. As was shared at a previous meeting, we worked through a curriculum revision and adoption for literacy in 2023. In the fall of this school year, we created a committee of literacy specialists, teachers, and administrators to examine and recommend updates to the kindergarten through 5th grade literacy standards. And that committee met throughout the fall and winter of this school year. This dedicated group examined the current report card, and the committee sought to recommend changes that brought greater clarity and more comprehensive pictures of our students in their journey through K through 5. This spring, the recommended changes were brought to teachers to evaluate and recommend feedback during their common planning time during the school day. Their recommendations were accounted for in what was shared with you in this packet. And before April vacation, we attempted to do a webinar to share our process with families. Unfortunately, it was the national outage of Zoom, which was a stressful moment. But what we did was we were able to fortunately record that presentation, and we shared a survey with families to better understand what supports they would recommend as we move into next steps as a district. Today we're excited to share our recommendations with you. I will be walking us through and referencing particular pages for the next couple minutes, if you would indulge me. I'd like to start first, please, by referencing a sheet labeled K through 5 vertical alignment. We shared this teacher-facing document to give some insight into the process we went through as a committee. Our committee of teachers, administrators, and literacy specialists looked at feedback from teachers, and we recognized that our current report card could improve in 3 key areas in particular, that we were seeking to have greater alignment to the Massachusetts framework standards, or more clear alignment, that the standards would demonstrate a clear representation vertically, which means throughout the K through 5 journey of the students. And finally, we sought to ensure that the standards were not redundant or unclear to the families. We understand that there's still some edu-speak, if you will, within this, but we did that, or we chose our language carefully to try and give the most clear picture we can of the students' learning. To begin, as you can see, this vertical alignment, the standards we're proposing align with the Massachusetts framework as is documented there. Additionally, the standards that we are recommending demonstrate a student's journey. This is exemplified, for example, with the reading standard for literature 9, which grows in complexity as the student goes from grades K through 5, examining, comparing, and contrasting. Continuing, when examining our current standards, we realized that some line items were broken into multiple components on our current report card. Where I'd like you to reference, if you would, please, the kindergarten standards page. Where appropriate, we sought to keep this approach for particular standards. So consider, demonstrates knowledge of letter sounds. This standard is typically combined, not typically, within the Massachusetts framework, it is actually combined with other skills for our students. However, as a committee and with teacher feedback, it was recommended that this is important enough to demonstrate separately and to communicate with our families. A thought that I agree with. Continuing, referencing the 3rd grade standards, some of our current standards were redundant. So some standards measured the same component skills. For instance, when looking at reading for literature and reading for informational text, some of those standards are measured in the same manner with the same component skills that would be accounted for on whether or not a student is accomplishing or demonstrating proficiency. So for those, we've actually recommended that those are reported together, which allows for us to include more standards more individual line items, but in fewer standards, if that makes any sense. More standards, fewer line items. So it's a more comprehensive picture where more information is shared with the families with the same amount of line items. As we've referenced, we've sought to clearly report on a student's progress and remove redundancy. And you can notice this on the 5th grade sheet. So if we could reference that. As we've gone from 6 categories to 3 categories, you'll notice that this streamlines our communication on skills, removing some redundancy while offering more comprehensive feedback. We're proposing to use the categories of reading, reading foundational skills, and writing and language. Finally, in alignment to what was previously approved with your changes, previously approved by you for math and other subject areas, we're recommending that literacy standards are focused upon literacy in alignment with the Massachusetts frameworks. The Portrait of a Graduate is a more robust and clear picture of student effort. And so we have recommended on the literacy side to have term progress and effort removed from the literacy standards individually. I'd like to then have you turn your attention, please, to the page labeled Updates to the Standards Ratings. We have heard from families that in the past, the N and the I on the rating scale can cause confusion. From the teacher's perspective, these standards are often used inconsistently. Our recommendation has been that the ratings for M, P, and B remain the same, that the I is removed, and that the N will be redefined as not yet addressed and not yet assessed. This will represent that standards have either been not taught yet or that there's insufficient data or information to report on that standard to the family. This is an opportunity for us to streamline the ratings so they can be used across the content areas and be consistently understood. Finally, in alignment with what was previously approved by you with math and other subject areas, we're recommending within literacy, and what we're recommending within literacy, we're recommending the removal of progress and effort from science and social studies, as is referenced on the page titled Updates to Science and Social Studies. We're currently requesting a change to the no change to the domains or topics. This is because we have not gone through the curriculum review process for those subject areas yet. So that script there is our recommended changes. We're happy to answer questions, but first, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Rogers to speak to next steps for the district as it pertains to our recommendations.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Risher. So as we think about next steps, I again say that we stand here or sit here before you reporting out on this, but this is like a Herculean effort. Really, our literacy specialists, particularly with the literacy portion of this in front of you, have done a tremendous amount of work and countless hours going back and forth with teachers to get feedback, just to ensure, again, that there's consistency with standards, there's alignment, and that when parents, that this is truly a reporting tool that parents can understand so you can see your child's progress as they move through their elementary years. And so I just need to commend the literacy and I would say math specialists, because they will continue this work too, because what they're also doing, and I'll share in these next steps, internally is creating user guides, for lack of a better word, but materials that help support teachers to know in the curriculum that we're using in the classroom, where might I find the data and information to report on this standard or that standard? When am I reporting on this, and when are we not? When are we not assessing specific areas of this report card, so therefore there will be an N because we haven't instructed on that or reported on that. And so there's a lot of work being put in on that side of things so that teachers are supported in the curriculum implementation, and then how are we analyzing data and then reporting on that. And then likewise, there's been a tremendous amount of research that folks have been doing on how are other communities supporting parents in understanding how to decipher what this report card is saying about my child's progress. And so that's the work that we hope is underway as we move in, well, will continue to be underway as we move into next year from both the math and literacy side, is saying what can we put out on the Office of Teaching and Learning website, and then update, as you may recall, I'll go back to these these letters that are attached to the front of every single elementary report card, how can we update these to then point folks towards more detailed information so that parents can go to one place when they have questions about what does a standard mean, or what are some questions I might want to ask my teacher or my child's teacher about these particular areas of the report card. So just as some next steps, they're outlined in your packet in a little more detail, but that's really the work that's underway, and our hope that by spring of 2026, there is a misprint there, it's a spring of 25, but in spring of 26, that we will have some forward-facing materials on the website that parents will be able to go to help support, understanding in quite a bit more depth of how to interpret this tool. That makes sense. So with that, we'll answer any questions you may have.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you both so much for all the work that went into this. It's really is a Herculean effort, so thank you very much. It's always great seeing you here, too. We'll start down here.
No questions from me. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the update. No questions here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for just all the work you put into this. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's aligning our standards here with the Massachusetts standards, making things more efficient with the categories, making things more readable. And so thank you and the members of the committee that worked on this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just amazed by our educators and what you guys are doing while you're redistricting, trying to give information about an override, redoing our entire output of report card. I just commend you all. You're just amazing. So thanks. And I'm not going to pretend to know better than you guys on what you're doing here, because this is, it just goes to show, like, when people are like, oh, you're destroying our schools, you're killing our schools with the budget, like, it just shows how much you guys do above and beyond your, contract. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that right. It's just, thank you. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I don't have any questions other than appreciating the great work. I'm a big fan of report cards.
And online, Dr. Griffith?
No additional questions. Appreciate all the effort and the clarity. I thought it was a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have just one I wanted to ask, just with the removal of the I. So like the mastery progress. Is there any, because I remember I would go and I would see that just as a dad, and I was like, okay, it's an I get that. It maybe just came in past couple of weeks. Little guy's not going to be up to speed. Has there been a thought or maybe a concern? Basically, I see the now the in and how like that standard not yet addressed or assessed, especially with the budget the way it's at. We got this $2 million kind of threat of possible if the structural deficit isn't solved. Is it not being addressed because it's just kind of like the natural course of things, or is it not being addressed because we don't have the staff to be able to properly like assess those items?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Just to speak to it, I think we agonized over this language more than any little sentence we could. You'll notice it does say yet assess, and we were careful to put the word yet in there. That in the scope, we've worked to create standards within our report card that are taught within that year, and to ensure. So that if it's on the report card and it still has an N, it does mean we don't have enough information to share that with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't learned it. For instance, on the literacy side, we do have a spiral curriculum that we are utilizing and leveraging. Our wonderful kindergarten teachers are starting the year and they're doing letter identification and formation, and they're having the kids learn to legitimately hold their pencil before they can move forward. I don't think it's realistic to have a grade right away on every single standard. However, they are still teaching the letters and the sounds and in all of these standards as they go, but they maybe haven't had the opportunity to assess it yet. So we've made sure to put that in there. Another piece of that is when we look at the standards too, we've been careful to, you can see it in the vertical progression. We've grayed out the standards which no longer are applicable, so that there's fewer standards that need to be marked as an N or I as they used to be, which was, we no longer teach that. We're not, you know, it's no longer a part of our scope and sequence. So we've tried to ensure that what's on the page reflects the experience of the student, and that the N, when we're communicating it, means we don't have that picture yet for that day or that term. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Like I said, just especially with all the budgetary conversations we're always having, that little worrisome, but I get that though. I see the broader picture, and really, especially this first page, the vertical alignment to the standards. You could see the hours of work that had gone into this. It's terrific, and I really applaud yourself, the entire team, everybody who worked on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
So just to wrap up, so the reason it's up for discussion, action, you have a policy, IKAB, which is basically student progress reports to parents. And it talks about the school committee recognizes that reports to families around their students' progress is vital and part of our system and how we work. Whenever there are major changes to the reporting system, for this is a good example of it, it should include evaluation by teachers, principals, the superintendent, and we would submit the proposal for consideration for approval. So here we are tonight. We began this process introducing this last year, as Dr. Rogers mentioned, and here we are before you tonight. And that's how it became an action item, just as a little bit of context for where we are. I recommend approval of the proposed changes to the elementary report card as discussed.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the proposed changes to the elementary report cards as discussed.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, questions? All right, vote will come on roll call. Gallagher?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
Griffith?
Yes.
And Callahan, yes. All right, motion passes. Thank you all.
Okay. Next in the discussion action items, we have a letter of support. I will read the letter of support and then kick it over to you. Or do you want
Before we do, I think one will just be recusing himself. All right.
Okay, he's seated.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just letter of support, so I'll read the recommendation and then I'll kick it over to you, Chairman Callahan, just to add context. I recommend approval of the letter of support for an act to modernize funding for community media programming as discussed.
All right. Is there a motion?
Yep, motion. We just read the
Yeah.
verbiage. Motion on the letter of support.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Dave, you leave us and the whole thing falls
Yeah.
apart.
If it was a motion to close the meeting, yeah.
All right. What do you say? Do you want to?
I just
Okay,
kicked it over to
perfect.
you.
And so, yeah, this came from, actually really came from when Franklin TV was here a couple of months ago, and talking about really just the fact that as more and more folks start cutting the cord, a lot of like the cable subscriptions is how they were able, that was their budget. And as more cords were cut, as more people kind of jumped over to streaming, they started to see a decline in revenue. Following that meeting, there was great expressed interest to figure out what we can do to kind of support them. And the director of Franklin TV had mentioned there was a number of bills in the House and the Senate, specifically an act to modernize funding for community media programming, which would take that same subscription fee that kind of comes on cables or a similar one and apply it to streaming services and digital content, so that way help offset the revenue loss that they're seeing from cord cutters. And so I think from, the town council had done something similar, I think during the last the last term for the House and the Senate, but then this was drafted up during policy, kind of voted on out of policy, and now kind of comes before us. And so this letter, if approved, will be sent to Senator Roush and Representative Roy on behalf of the school committee, and we'll CC the town and Franklin TV as well. Any questions, comments, suggestions? And online?
No.
Okay. And then additionally too, I think, Al, you had mentioned, not only at this meeting, kind of talking about the need to support these guys, but also to see if we can kind of work with other school committees to kind of do the same. And so I've kind of been in touch with a couple other chairs around the state. And so once this kind of gets voted on and officially kind of clean, like drafted up, I can kind of share the same thing along with the references that we pulled up during policy with all the other school committees, just so they can kind of go and try to flood Beacon Hill with some of these similar letters, because Franklin TV and just the local community media is just so incredibly important. For the folks that are watching today, right now, but also we have right upstairs, as Superintendent Jagir had mentioned, there's FinCom is meeting for night 2 of their big budget meetings. Both of those are being covered, and you can kind of watch us right now. And then tomorrow, watch the FinCom. If you missed the schools present on the FinCom last night, you're able to watch on that. And if you really you need something to watch, then you can kind of go and take a look at every single school committee meeting, the town council meetings, economic development meetings. Everything is there and accessible because of Franklin TV, along with all the sports games. We watched graduation, the concerts, and that's what this letter really kind of encapsulates. But Franklin TV is just doing a knockout, bang out job, and we want to be able to kind of provide as much support to them as possible. With that, I'll get off my soapbox and do a roll call vote. Gallagher?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Yes, O'Sullivan.
Griffith?
Yes.
And Callahan, yes. Motion passes. All right, thank you all. And again, I'll get this out to other school committees too.
And thanks for writing that.
Of course. Whew. All right, welcome back. That's rough.
That was tricky.
All right, moving on, discussion only items, campus naming discussion.
Okay, so the campus naming discussion topic is on your agenda tonight. During the policy subcommittee meeting that we held it was probably 3 weeks ago, because we had a vacation week in there, we were visited by the Historical Commission to discuss naming. You've also received a communication correspondence from the town council, which we discussed briefly, I think, at one of our meetings more recently. But I know that tonight, Mr. Callahan, you wanted to open this up for a public discussion just around some of the information, discuss as a group, and then discuss next steps that you may want to take as you move forward. So I'll kick it over to you for the facilitation.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And again, what came out when we were from policy, and I know we did speak about it at the wider meeting during the policy and the subcommittee updates, but effectively was that the area and the boundary lines that encompass ECDC, the Franklin Middle, and the high school and the field surrounding it would move, the idea at a policy was that would henceforth be known as the Horace Mann campus, and with the potential of wayfinding, be able to do something more than just to kind of put a name on a Google map, but to at least start with this is the campus, and then continue to kind of go from there in time. And so, we had the discussion of policy, but just wanted to kind of bring it up over here so everybody can kind of put, add in their own discussion, ideas, thoughts, and then formally kind of vote the next meeting. And so with that, if there's any kind of questions or comments, actually we'll start down here, this side. No?
I just wanted to address last time, and I know Paul's going to speak too. I'm totally agreeable to this. When we were changing the names, I was sad to see the Horace Mann name go away, and but I knew that we had to get it done for paperwork reasons, and I've definitely heard from the rest of the community that they'd like to preserve Horace Mann and his legacy in this town. So I'm agreeable to the letter. I do want to draft a reply to the town council. So maybe, I don't know what the process for that is, probably bringing it up in policy, showing it to everybody, getting consent, and then showing it to the rest of you, and kind of, maybe we can kind of reply and just look like we're unified in our message, which I think is going to look something like, we love the idea of preserving Horace Mann. Let's make it, more than just a name in this community. and stand behind, you know, the naming of the building and his values, so. But yeah, I'm totally agreeable to this. I liked campus, instead of, because it sounded more school, than complex, but that's just, you know, I think that was the only thing that we changed on what the town council wrote.
Thank you. Yes, and I also very much agree with this decision and support of this idea. You know, before, you know, the Horseman name was really like the name that I felt the strongest about in terms of that we preserve, and I definitely understood I guess the necessity of the moment with renaming, with getting the new campus name to, well, not the campus name, the school names to the state. And you know, it was a little sad to see that go, but hoping it would come back up when the process reappeared. But I think you know, we can do this with the campus. You know, campus is even better than the school. So yeah, it seems like an upgrade to me. Yeah, so you know, with that, yeah, I'm very much in support of this.
Yep, so I definitely agree. I agree that the Horseman name needs to be preserved. However, I don't agree with naming it as a campus.
Okay.
I think that it's gonna get lost and it's not gonna be used. Because I can tell you right now, I go to Shaw's right there.
Right.
I never tell anybody I go to the Horseman Plaza.
Right.
I go to the jump park with my kids. I go to, you know, Wasang. I go to these other places. I never have ever called it the name of the plaza. And I think if we call it the plaza, it's just a name only, and it's not a true honoring of that person, because the high school students are not gonna say, yeah, I go to the Horseman campus. I go to Franklin High School. I go to Franklin Middle School. I go to ECDC. So the use of a campus, I think it's in symbol, but it's not a true naming in reference of that. So I mean, we can do it, but I can guarantee you, nobody's gonna call it that.
It won't be the brand.
No, it's not gonna be the brand. And I mean, if you go to somebody that's out of town, you're not gonna say, hey, yeah, it's the Horseman campus. What does that mean to them? So I think we need to think more thoroughly around this and really do something that is impactful and not necessarily just to say the name is there. Because we have a lot of plazas, but ask yourself, do you call these plazas by their name, or do you call it by the destination that you're going to? We have Franklin Village. I go to Stop and Shop. I don't go to Franklin Village. So I think we need to do better. If we truly want to honor the name, we need to name a destination, singular destination as that, with that name.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Go.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not gonna disagree, because I think that's pretty accurate. I think one thing we did talk about upstairs that hasn't been brought up down here is, one of the things that the town council letter mentioned was its ability to be part of the solution of signage, and we were sort of picturing like a more grand entrance to that area, and something, I think it was discussed, like the way that Dean College has those like little banners on the flagpoles around and everything, like just something that would be like, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm on Dean College campus, or I'm within the Horseman, so it might be a little more for visiting communities. It would stick a little better and have sort of a presence. But I agree with your point that outside of this town, people aren't referring to that school, so it might lose its value in being branded as like a Franklin thing. Unless people are coming to the town and then seeing like take a right at the big Horseman sign, or you'll know you're on the Horseman campus because you'll see the little flags everywhere or something. So it's not, I think, as encompassing as you hope, but it's a little better than just calling it like the Horseman Plaza, but I see your point. Anyway, so just worth mentioning.
And would it be all right if I,
Yeah,
Dr.
go ahead.
Griffith? Okay.
Thank you all. So I think this is, it's definitely a very important conversation to have. I do think that sending, a unified letter is a good touch. I think that's a great idea, Ruth Ann. I do want to comment on a couple of things. First off, I wanted to remind everyone why we went to the idea of using Franklin Middle School. That was the fact that we had 3 different communities coming together under a new umbrella and wanted to make sure that it was as welcoming an environment as possible and something that everyone was able to really get behind to be a part of, instead of saying everyone else is joining one school. That continues to be something that I think is an underlying and very, very important part that I don't want to lose during these discussions. And I think is really kind of that driving force from the school perspective. On the other side of this, looking at the idea of, all right, fine, you might not call a plaza that you go shopping in by its name. No, you refer to the store that you go to. But especially with the high school and also looking at how town council discussed it and Ruth Ann had brought up, looking at signage, looking at some kind of actual plaza and real recognition and a waypoint, having labels on the fields, having labels on the schools, talking and really connecting. Students aren't necessarily going to see that day or aren't going to comment on that day to day. I think a lot of this is focused on the parents and the community, and I think that's very, very important. But trying to compare a school campus to a shopping center is not quite the same. I would point more so to, as was done or mentioned earlier, a community or a educational campus. You talk about a building on that campus sometimes, but really you talk about, like Penn State, you're talking about main campus, or you're talking about one of the satellite campuses. It's not apples to apples when you're trying to compare a shopping center and a school environment. And again, I want to make sure that we are reiterating how important it is to create a welcoming community for all the students that are coming in while recognizing that Horace Mann history. We have had multiple buildings over the past 100, 200 years named for Horace Mann in this town. I actually went on a bit of a search, and some of the Franklin archives have been really fantastic in helping that. And one by one, including one of the schools, was named after Horace Mann before any of us or our parents were born. And over the years, things change. I think one of the big things to recognize here is that there's a reason for the change and an important one. However, having this immediate pivot over to make sure that the name is continued to be recognized and something that is honored and cherished with, again, wayfinding, with signs, with some kind of actual like structural and put in place, in addition to the names on the different buildings that we have, on the fields that we have. There is a way to really make sure that things are being remembered. People do look at those signs. They might not say, hey, we're going to the Franklin High School football stadium at the Horace Mann complex, but you get there and you see it, and people recognize that and people understand it. You don't use the longest possible term, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't get the same kind of recognition and honor that it deserves. I think that is a really great thing that we can do. It broadens the horizon. It creates that idea of the middle school and the high school really being part of an overarching group, like a complex, like we've talked about, or a facility or a campus. And I really like that idea about kind of uniting those two schools. That is, I think, where we need to be focusing. That's what we need to be thinking about, is not just this one school needs to hang on to its name. Everyone else has been asked to change. And that's kind of how I see this argument. It's like, don't change one thing. Instead of really turning this around to something that we can look to expand on the honor of Horace Mann, expand on the recognition, and broaden the scope in a way that we focus on something that is just for him. Like, if you think about this, like I said, multiple buildings have been renamed over the years. The Franklin Historical building was originally a Horace Mann historical building. That was renamed, and that's just kind of fallen off, right? That was a long time ago, and that's just changed. Here, we're having this immediate pivot, and I think we're adding something to the town with you calling this the Horace Mann campus. Sorry, I keep on saying complex because that was something we had tossed around. But calling it, the Horace Mann campus, calling the high school the Horace Mann campus, calling it the middle school the Horace Mann campus, there's not a rationale to change that in the future. we have something that could really be much more permanent, because there's not a reason to change a sign or a area. You know, if we have pavers and we have some kind of little structure there that really recognizes and embodies this and has it as an anchor point between the two schools as you come in, as something that everyone sees, we're not going to be changing that 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road. That's something where we continuously get an opportunity to honor Horace Mann. So I do want to make sure that we're looking at this in those two ways. And I think that it's a great idea. I think having the discussion next week when we have or in 2 weeks when we have a document in front of us would be great. But I want to make sure that we are remembering kind of the full circle and everything we're talking about and comparing things to similar things instead of a shopping center to a educational campus. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I have also heard, from some people in my network, the same sentiment that Al is bringing up. On the flip side, though, I think that I really can I appreciate the sentiment of having a Horace Mann campus, and I was gonna say part of what Paul said here in the, the feeling of bringing the three schools together, and that whole line. I think that in the same way that this town, makes ladybugs feel special. Did anybody do the walk last weekend in the rain? There are ways to make history come alive for our kids and for our families here that can step away from we're maintaining a name on a building. Like, there's a way to really make it become a part of this community, and there's opportunity there. So that obviously falls outside of just your next policy meeting, but I think that it's a real chance for the town to create something special, and it doesn't need to mean that that special thing is to stick with exactly what is there today. So I am in support of the campus. I am in support of continuing to imagine what could be for our kids and families coming into this town to, learn about and appreciate what Horace Mann did for public education and for well-funded public education. I'm just gonna slide that in. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, just one thing to add. Just want to clarify. I did not say to name the middle school as Horace Mann. I just said we needed to do something different and think differently. So just a point of clarity.
Thank you all. And we'll say too, I know with public discussion, if anybody in council chambers or folks online have anything to say. All right. But yeah, certainly hear all of that. We'll kind of continue the conversation. And with a formal vote the next meeting. And there's also been, I know, some other ideas too that kind of been floated around, Erin, to kind of your point about what else, to kind of make it bigger. Ideas have been floated around about Horace Mann's birthday, which, quick shout out, that's this Sunday. And the Franklin Historical Commission has a birthday party scheduled over there. But are there ways in which we can kind of incorporate his birthday into the school calendar? Or just into kind of, like I said, like making it alive. And so there's a lot of different ideas. I think it's a longer conversation, but at least right now too, I'm glad we're having this conversation and we can kind of continue to move forward as well.
I'll reiterate some thoughts and remarks from the policy subcommittee meeting around, specifically you mentioned wayfinding and banners, and I would say that if a decision is to move in the direction of a campus named after Horace Mann, I think Mr. Charles's point around the idea of how do you make that come alive, as Ms. Gallagher said, but try to recognize that. So I know some other districts have boulevard banners on their light poles throughout, and I think you made that point, Ms. O'Sullivan, but I would point out it's a way to indicate where you are on the property, and I think there was conversations around a statue. I know that's symbolic, but certainly one overseeing that campus, I could envision being something we work towards and work collaboratively with folks to make something like that happen. Those are comments that came out from the subcommittee. And I do know that you all have had to make a series of very difficult decisions. So have I, for the record. But ultimately, what I think is what's not lost on me is the spirit of Horace Mann. And I appreciated the comment around the values, because it's as equally important to not only provide a visual and a symbolic representation, but it's important that we live the idea and the values of what Horace Mann brought regarding public education. And I think where you are all advocating for that through your advocacy for education, but I do think there are ways that we can do this right and do this honorably. If the decision is to move that direction, I'm in support, and I feel like we can propose some plans that are actionable and are collaborative and would do this the right way, should that be the way you want to move. All right, so.
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Another thing I really like about the idea of sort of this concept, and I'm not disagreeing that we could go bigger or do something like different. I just can't imagine it being outside of like the most senior level school educated children. So, but anyway, I think that something that's really attractive about this is there's a lot of enthusiasm coming from the town council around this subject, and a lot from the sort of people we perceive as not being school stakeholders any longer in town. You know, it was pretty clear delineation when we tried to pass that over last year, when we looked at the data that came back, which areas, precincts were voting no, and it's age demographic. So I think that there's a piece of me that really wants to kind of wrap my arms around the town council and bring them into this conversation and get them excited about that as our brand again, because I think that's sort of what the community's founded on, and I'd love to kind of get back there as far as like, you know, I want the town council to see us as a education-focused community, and I think this will help with that. So I do like it that they petitioned us to do this. That got me excited. So.
Yep, and I guess my question and comments are, I'm not, is there a timetable that we're trying to hit? Because I feel like, I know when we talk about certain things, we don't want to rush things, and that's a common theme that I hear a lot is, oh, we're moving too quickly, and I feel like this is done quickly, and I feel like there's silos that are being done right now, and I hear feedback from the town council, I hear feedback from the policy subcommittee, but I don't hear anything from the community, and I feel like if we really want to do this right, just like other things that we've talked about in the past, we need to take our time, and we need to engage those stakeholders to have a cohesive decision. And I mean, is this a time to have a subcommittee with town council representation, school representation, and community representation to find a solution that works across the board? I mean, I think that's the best way we can do it versus what's happened so far.
So one thing what I may say, like with that, one, when we were forever ago having the discussion about the names and about whether or not it's going to be like the language of the placeholder versus the names moving forward, at some point throughout that discussion, I had mentioned the idea that this school committee, like after summer, once school kind of opens up, could roll out a subcommittee, start here, and then kind of move forward. I even mentioned the master facilities planning that you and I and Elise were on. Start now, and then help kind of guide moving forward. And I see something similar to that because in addition to Horace Mann, I know there's also been a lot of talk about Remington as well. That was another local Franklinite that kind of deserves recognition and what to do about that as well. This here it's a conversation that has been happening, but a conversation that also kind of that the town council and was hearing themselves, but also from their community, and that had kind of reached out over here. What I like with this idea is that it's something that we're able to go and to effectively give the green light to the superintendent in the same fashion that we did over a year ago, green light for this reorganization process. It's God, it cannot be as much work as this reorganization has been. But the idea being, we can at least kind of go and vote and say, yes, this is something that we like. To Dr. Griffith's comment, I love about the permanency. This is, regardless of what happens with any buildings in the next 50 years, this location, this plot of land right here is continually a Horace Mann campus. But to take, at least to kind of go and say, yes, this is what we would like to do. Have a response back formally to kind of town council as well, but then to take that time to kind of pull in some of those folks. I did have a conversation with Chairman Mercer to say, if we do something like that, would you be interested in having some town council members kind of join that one? I didn't give the historical commission an opportunity. I just kind of told them, I would love, you gotta sit in on this one as well, and some other community members. And so I think the idea being that this is something theoretically we could kind of go and say, yes, we want to give the green light. This is the space that we want to do. Now let's move forward as we have with the reorganization to continue to make this bigger. What else can we do to kind of make it shine as much as the Ladybugs have, and also not losing out on Remington and other parcels that matter. So that'd be my thoughts on it.
I can also speak to the timeline a little bit. So Chairman Mercer came twice to our policy meeting, and then Historical Commission, and so the feedback that I was hearing was that there was like people of like, generations past that were fired up. Mm-hmm. And so I think more than a permanent structural sort of decision, we wanted to assure them. In the letter that they wrote us, there was a specific phrase that sort of bothered me that said, we were disappointed that the school committee did not consider keeping the same. And I wanted to really say, that's not true. We talked about that, and that is a consideration. So I think I wanted to get this vote on record in front of those stakeholders to be like, we are a school committee that values Horace Mann. So that was like a little bit about why we brought it down here so quickly. I think we wanted to assure them that this is an ongoing conversation and we are on board and we want to keep his legacy alive. So that was part of the strategy for the timeline, I think.
I would just say, just operationally as we talk about this, one, I would say it was never the intention not to consider how Horace Mann, given his magnitude in this community. So from the committee, in my conversations with you all, just to make sure there's credit given, there was not an oversight. It was more of, we were drinking from a fire hose and trying to manage a lot of different tasks, and we had to move through and make decisions. But I think what we can do operationally is, it sounds like what I've heard, just so I'm prepared for next meeting, is someone will draft a letter in response to the letter you received, a correspondence. Next meeting, it will be a topic for discussion, is what I'm hearing. And you will discuss that and then, endorse it or support it or not, or make suggestions on how it could be tweaked or whatever. And then that gets out the door, the letter goes. I'm envisioning, are you thinking, just for the point of this isn't meant to be a rush job, but it's also within your purview as a school committee to decide if you want to name a campus. Whether you agreed with a town council recommendation or not, it's in your purview policy-wise. I do see the collaboration and the collaborative effort, and I think there's shared interest in trying to honor Horace Mann in some way. But I think to Mr. Charles's point is the process, and about get that letter in the communication, make sure it includes some of the thoughts that you feel are important to include in that by the next meeting. And then the May meeting we have, which is the 27th, you could decide by that time, do you have the information you need to make decisions and arrive at it? That would be my recommendation, because I don't know how much time you need to spend on honoring someone who's been honored in part of this, but I don't want to also shortcut or make a decision. This is ultimately within your charge, and based on the decisions you've had to make over my time, I think it's I have confidence that you can make the decisions you need to make, and I wonder about that being a goal that we set, or at least from my end, so I'm preparing correctly. Please give me some feedback on what I just proposed, and let me know if there's anything you would like to add, just so that I'm ready for the next two meetings.
Well, I'll certainly have a letter for the May 13th meeting. Okay. And we can at least get that.
So we'll leave that as a discussion only, and then you can provide, so that will happen on May 13th, you'll provide the letter.
Sure.
Okay.
big discussion points for next term is the plastic versus metal utensils.
Yeah.
All right, any other kind of questions, comments? All right, fantastic. Thank you all so much for everything that was kind of provided.
So May 13th. Anything for May 27th? Do you want to decide on the 13th?
Correct, yeah, so
That
we'll,
sounds-
That's fine with me, I just, okay,
yeah,
We have policy on May 13th too, so that would help.
good.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. All right, excellent. Thank you all. Appreciate the discussions. All right, information matters. Superintendent evaluation.
Yes, so just a reminder, at the next school committee meeting, Superintendent Jagier will be presenting his evidence for the evaluation, and then the evaluation form will open up for the members to complete by the end of the month. And then that first week, we're still finalizing the date, but we'll do that soon, but that first week, the subcommittee will meet, go over the submissions from the members, and put together the report to be voted on in June.
All right, excellent. And how about budget?
Budget has not met, and again, for all those following the town budget process, as was mentioned a couple of times tonight, there was the FinCom meeting last night that was in regards to the schools, and there's more meetings going tonight, and I believe tomorrow night as well, maybe, or maybe just tonight.
Thursday.
Thursday, okay, but yeah, 3 meetings in total, so please go back and watch that from last night if you're interested, and then the town council having their budget hearings at the end of May, I believe it's the 21st and the 22nd. And then we have the override vote on June 3rd, so please go out and vote yes.
All right, thank you very much. Policy.
Policy, well, we just talked about what we're talking about in policy. Next meeting's May 13th, and other than that, I just want to be clear, especially regarding Paul's comments at the beginning of the meeting around the fees. We have not voted to reduce any fees, just to be clear. We've discussed that that could be a great solution for the parents, given that we're asking for this override. And I do personally intend to vote for these fees to be reduced if the override passes. But I don't want to, I just want to be clear with the community that there has been no vote. So as it stands, we're paying the fees that we paid this year, and hopefully the vote passes. If that's motivation, which it certainly should be, then please go out and vote on June 3rd. So, and then, yeah, so May 13th is our next meeting.
All right, thank you. And community relations.
Community relations, so we didn't meet due to a technical issue. We are looking for a new date, so Mr. Jagier will figure,
Yeah.
okay, we'll work through it.
Mhm.
But if not, our next scheduled meeting is on the 20th of May. Can't believe I'm saying May 20th, because it's like crazy, yeah. But things that we will be talking about, Strawberry Stroll, which is around the corner. The high school, once again, has worked to do designs for the calendar, so I should be getting those tomorrow, worst case the 1st, and then the Community Relations Committee will vote on which ones we select, and then we'll also work on what we will be doing for the Strawberry Stroll, what activities, handouts, all that stuff. But it is June 13, if folks are wondering, and you'll get your normal, what can you cover for that shift, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, excellent, thank you. Joint PCC.
Joint PCC, so the last time we met, we talked about year-end activities that they're doing. We also talked through things that were happening next year, so how they wanted to manage field trips and their approach. Talked about what they're planning on doing for meet and greets as the new schools get structured. Mr. Jagier, I'm assuming you received this from Colin, but there were some questions regarding the marquee at Oak Street, since they don't have one today, and like maybe relocating an existing one from the schools that are no longer going to be used. And then we are going to meet next on the 20th, which is another doubleheader date.
All right, SWAC. Okay. But mental health and well-being.
We're in a meeting on May 13th, so we haven't done anything since.
Busy day. All right, reorg liaisons?
We have not met since our last update.
Okay. All right, then off to consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the minutes from your April 8th school committee meeting as detailed. I recommend acceptance of $2,442 from the Franklin Music Boosters for in-house enrichment as detailed. I recommend acceptance of $7,000 for FHS scholarships as follows: $1,500 for the Carol Marr Scholarship, $2,500 for the Digital Federal Credit Union, $2,000 the Class of 2025 Memorial Scholarship, $750 for OSCE Yearbook, and $250 for Art NHS. I recommend acceptance of $5,100 from the American Heart Association for the Kids Heart Challenge to be distributed as follows: $1,000 for Jefferson, $700 for Keller, $1,700 for Kennedy, $1,200 for Oak Street, $500 for Parmenter.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as detailed?
Move to approve the consent agenda as detailed.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion, questions? All right, vote will come on a roll call. Gallagher?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
Griffith?
Yes.
Callahan, yes. All right, motion passes. To citizens' comments, and it's not even 8:30. Any citizens in the audience in person or online who would like to make a comment on an item not on tonight's agenda and falls within the committee's purview? All right. And on to new business.
Okay, for new business, as I said, the Franklin High School Theater Company is invited to join us on May 13th. And you will expect to receive the superintendent evaluation, as Mr. McNeil mentioned. Also, the BICO and Accept board appointments, those are for our collaboratives that we're a part of, educational collaboratives. Also, the Horace Mann naming discussion letter will come before you as one of the discussion action items. We're expecting a pledge student from Annie Sullivan Middle School. And we may have another update on transportation traffic based on some of the questions that have come up around timeline and whatnot. So we've put that in the notes as well.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And I think actually we may have one individual online who was looking for a citizen's comment. Sorry, Paul, I promise I didn't wait till you sat down.
Barda.
Thanks, Paul.
Purpose.
You're getting your steps in.
That's okay. I like that.
All right, Roberta, name and address, if you could, please.
Hi, good evening, thanks. Roberta Trahan, 1 Green Street. Sorry, I had trouble getting my hand raised there. Can you hear me okay?
We gotcha.
Great, thanks. So, as we are all aware, we have an important special ballot election coming up on June 3rd. One Franklin has been working extensively over the past months to appreciate and understand the financial challenges facing the town across all departments, including schools, police, fire, library, DPW, and the senior center. These conversations were held ahead of the town council vote to hold a special election and confirm the importance of all of Franklin coming together to preserve our public services, public safety, and public schools. Without a successful override, many services and programs are at risk that will impact neighbors across our town. In the coming weeks, One Franklin will be hosting conversations, standouts, canvassing to spread the word about the June 3rd vote. If you are interested or curious, reach out to us through our website, onefranklinmass.com. Join our kickoff at Franklin TV on Saturday, May 3rd, from 1 to 3 p.m. We appreciate all who have engaged thus far and look forward to more of you joining us in the coming weeks. And I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to the entire school committee, Superintendent Giguere and his A-team for all the work that you have been doing. This is unprecedented, so thank you very much. And here's hoping for a good outcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Roberta. All right. All right, so now then, we will be going into executive session, but with the intent to return back, as we still have one more discussion action item. We're going into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to enter executive session.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion, questions? Roll call, Gallagher?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
But yes. It's not gonna work, but yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
Griffith?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will be right back. If you're watching live, you probably can sign up for the bus transportation while you wait.
Nice plug.
8:38, kind of coming out of executive session. We good online?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. All right, so then moving on to discussion action item, part 2, the superintendent contract. The chair recommends approval of the successor contract for Lucas Jagir to serve as superintendent of schools July 1, 2025 through July 30, 2031. Is there a motion as discussed?
Motion to approve, as you just said.
Second?
Second.
All right. Discussion, questions?
No, I mean, just like to say, I'm really, I'm really glad we were able to just do this in just very expedited manner. We had a great back and forth, and I'm really excited to be offering this to you, Lucas. So thank you, and we hope to be seeing you around here for a while.
Yeah, my only discussion is, I'm excited. I think the public will be excited to hear that we're trying to get you for 6 years. 6 years. It's good. It's a win. You know, as long as you second.
Yeah, hopefully in the future we'll name one school after.
And Dr. Griffith.
I think you all got it covered. Thank you.
Lucas, very thankful throughout this entire process, but really, the 4 years I've gotten to work with you here on school committee. And I know during one of the listening sessions, it was brought up about how Franklin sees a number of superintendents kind of quickly turn over. And the fact that what we have here is a 6-year contract adding on to what you've already been serving. We're going to be, this is, almost a decade that we'll have you at the helm of Franklin Public Schools. And I cannot wait to see what those next couple of years are going to bring. It cannot be as raucous as.
I was going to say, can we think about the initiatives?
We'll tamper it down for you, but I'm very excited that we'll be able to have you continue to serve at the helm. You've done a phenomenal job up until this point, and I know you have great things in front of you as well. And so thank you very much for your commitment to Franklin kiddos too. It means a lot. All right, a vote will come on a motion. Gallagher.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes.
O'Sullivan.
Yes.
Sampali.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
And Callahan, yes.
I just want to say thank you. I think the work that I've accomplished has been reflective of the entire team, the entire district that I am fortunate to lead. I say this with all sincerity. I'm committed to Franklin. I'm not only committed as a professional, I'm raising my own children in the same district with many of my colleagues. I'm looking over at Paula and many others that we have in the district. And I just appreciate your professionalism, your collaboration. I think we set out with some shared objectives as we've moved through this process, but ultimately I'm excited. We've made a lot of change, and I think there's still a lot of work to be done within the community and within our schools, and I feel grateful for the opportunity to lead through that, and I just appreciate your support as we move forward, and I'm committed to being here and leading the next phase of work. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the time that you took and the thoroughness that you took around these discussions. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Now with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait, I have a comment.
I already told
Can I say something?
Go
quick?
ahead,
Because I
go
know a lot of people are gonna tune in. They're gonna tune in to see this contract being offered, so while I have the attention, because I forgot to mention it, and thank you to Roberta, who spoke about the effort to pass this override, because I think just for anybody who wants to get involved, specifically this Saturday, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the TV station here in Franklin, where Steve Sherlock works in Franklin TV, they're gonna do a sort of volunteer kickoff where they're gonna provide information and really accurate, good information, talking points, how to tell the story. There's gonna be sort of forms to volunteer for, standouts and text banking and postcarding, and it's going to be a whole big effort, and it's going to be a good time. So I'm going to be there. I hope some of my colleagues are going to join, and that's on this Saturday. We've got 1 month. We've got this guy at the helm. Let's get this thing passed. And I hope the community will show up. So I didn't want to. And next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, but make sure your kids write a card, say something nice to teachers. Do the right thing. Take care of our teachers. Sorry. Okay, now we can adjourn.
Yeah, one quick comment is to the community out there, this is the June 3rd is very important override. This is not about any individual or anybody else. It's exclusive for the future of Franklin. Say yes to the override. If any folks out there who wants to say no, shoot an email why you want to say no. We are glad to answer all your questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Now, start fresh with a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, non-debatable. Gallagher?
Yes.
Charles?
Yep.
McNeil?
Yes.
O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Sampali?
Yes.
Griffith?
Yes.